1993, where Brad Binder on the factory KTM equalled the all-time top speed record, 362.4 kilometers an hour. Will that be better today with some slipstream early on? Circuit winners, Ducati were the two winners previously before Fabio Quartararo broke their home hold on proceedings here at Mugello last year. Of course, there are the Ducatisti. They're out in force. Can Pecco Bagnaia win here in Mugello to fire some much-needed momentum back into his World Championship challenge? Of course, it still feels so strange, so bizarre to be racing here in Mugello for the first time in 26 years without Valentino Rossi out on circuit. There's still some fans there letting off the yellow flares in homage and tribute to Valentino Rossi pre-race here yesterday. His famous, his iconic legendary number 46 was officially retired in a special ceremony on the grid. What can the current stars of Motogp though here deliver here today in Mugello? Will we see an Italian, Enea Bastianini has his work cut out coming from the head of that fourth row in 10th place. We know he's a hard charger. We know how good he is at managing those tyres as well. Is the young Italian. A victory here today would be super special. It's one thing to win a race in the Motogp World Championship. It's a whole different ball game when you win right here in the home of Italian two-wheel motorsport, Mugello. It's an extra special feeling. No bigger incentive, no bigger motivation for the likes of Paul Mann, Fabio Di Giannantonio, Marco Bezzecchi and Luca Marini going on that relatively inexperienced front row. Don't discount Johann Zarco. Can he finally find a way to the top step of the podium in Motogp? Trying to be the 12th Ducati winner in Motogp. There is confirmation then on your screens. The first time rookies have taken a 1-2 on the grid in the public class since the Qatar Grand Prix. Jorge Lorenzo on his Motogp debut for the factory Yamaha team alongside James Toseland 14 long years ago.
Real sense of uncertainty then on the front row of the grid. The three riders on the front row just have 39 Motogp starts between them. That is how inexperienced and young it is, but a real sense of uncertainty and unpredictability. We're ready to go on Mugello.
It's a scary Mugello on the top of Marco Bezzecchi's one-off special helmet here in his own Grand Prix. Let's hope it's not a scary race for him. Green flag waves out the back, then we're all set to go here. The Oakley Grand Prix of Italy in Motogp is go. Great launch off the line by the common Fabio Di Giannantonio. Marco Bezzecchi stuck it away on that Mini VR46 Ducati. Really good start by the world champion Fabio Quartararo as well. He gets a bit of a head shake as they run down towards San Donato. Di Giannantonio there in third place. It looks like Marini has gone into the first corner a bit hot, or was it Marco Bezzecchi? Di Giannantonio that the pole man is that leads.
Yeah, both VR46 Ducatis got wide into turn one. They were really struggling to get out stopped. I think Di Giannantonio has emerged still ahead. You can see one of the VR46 Ducatis is Luca Marini, who's now battling, and he does get himself into the lead. Quartararo, actually saying Matt, didn't get a very good start. He's got himself ahead of Bagnaia, he's got himself ahead of Zarco. They're battling away for fourth position at the moment.
Yeah, Aleix Espargaro said if there's one man who's really good on a full fuel tank, it's Fabio Quartararo, and that was Aleix Espargaro, and he picks him up going through Casanova and Savelli. This is exactly what Aleix Espargaro said he was going to do yesterday. Last night when the media spoke to him, had to be aggressive at the start of this Grand Prix. That's exactly what he's doing. Aleix Espargaro, 7th to 4th in 9 corners.
Bagnaia dropped back in the early stages of this first lap. He's back in 8th. He was really battling away with Johann Zarco and Taka Nakagami as well. Brad Binder's also made a brilliant start on the KTM. He started 16th. He's up to P9.
Oh yeah, great start by the South African. That's Bezzecchi up through the inside of the Di Giannantonio, then through Pelagio. Down the hill they go into Corotaro then for the first time, and it's Luca Marini. Dreamland for Valentino Rossi here. It's a VR46 Ducati 1-2 in Mugello. Can you believe it? A circuit which was a second home for Valentino Rossi. He won a historic 7 races in a row back in the day in his heyday of his Grand Prix career, and his boys are doing the business early on here in Mugello. Luca Marini, it looks like he will do. He will come out of the final corner to lead lightly in the first lap ahead of his teammate Marco Bezzecchi. It's been a good first lap, solid first lap for Fabio Di Giannantonio, still there in third spot.
Let the slipstreaming commence then. Bezzecchi doesn't need it. He goes straight past his teammate Luca Marini into the lead. Aleix Espargaro not able to outbrake Fabio Di Giannantonio. Quartararo didn't lose out much ground on the straight there as Brad Binder goes at the inside of Bagnaia. Bagnaia still back in 8th. Binder though up into 7th now.
You can't overtake in Motogp. Brad Binder's made up 9 places with that first lap. Absolutely superb. They call him a Sunday man. He's delivering again on the most important day of the weekend, isn't he? The South African. He's under attack though here from Pecco Bagnaia. And Bagnaya's got that job done, so the KTM man slips back down into 8th place. Still an outstanding start for Binder.
Quartararo's back past Oasis Spargaro somewhere on this second lap, so Fabio Quartararo is now the leading non-Ducati. This is just where Quartararo would have wanted to be at this stage of the race, with these inexperienced front row starters up ahead of him. Can Quartararo pick these riders off and pull off an unlikely upset for Yamaha? He's back ahead of Oasis Spargaro. Of course, they're battling for the lead of the World Championship.
The beast, Bastianini, has not yet shown his teeth at the moment. He had a poor first lap. He came over the line and then up the first lap in 12th place. Here comes Pecco Bagnaia trying to find a way through on Joan Zarco. Bastianini now can see he's gone into 11th place. I got through on Oliveira, but no significant progress so far from the Grazzini man.
Quartararo is now past Fabio Di Giannantonio, so the world champion is up to 3rd. Bagnaia does now get past Joan Zarco, who didn't make it easy for him, did he? The fellow Ducati rider. Now Bagnaia will have Oasis Spargaro up ahead of him, who again will not make it easy, but it's still a VR46 1-2. Bezzecchi, who of course got the lead from Luca Marini as they came down the home straight last time around. Quartararo now with a real opportunity. He's got a fight between himself and Oasis Spargaro, but for how long?
Alien territory this for Marco Bezzecchi. He's led and won in Moto3 before. He's led and won in Moto2. This is a whole different story as Fabio Quartararo slugs it out with Fabio Di Giannantonio on the brakes into San Donato. Nothing Quartararo can do about the top speed of that year-old Ducati GP21. Quartararo got his hands full as well, keeping Oasis Spargaro directly behind him at bay.
Yeah, Quartararo back down into 4th then. He'll get the run here. He's going to try and force them inside, showing him the relative lack of experience for Di Giannantonio. Di Giannantonio is not used to being in this company in a MotoGP race. He's got the reigning world champion behind him.
Bagnaia through. Sorry, Lewis. He got to an Oasis Spargaro. Real good fight this. Ferocious stuff between Fabio and Fabio in that battle for the final place on the podium. So Bagnaia did get through finally on Oasis Spargaro. He was the pre-race favourite in many respects with Pecco Bagnaia. Everybody identified him as a real big threat if he got a good start. He's just betting himself now into this race. It's been picture perfect so far from Bezzecchi and Marini. They're riding roughshod for each other at the moment, aren't they? Perfect wingmen together. Quartararo on the last lap was the quickest mile on the circuit with a 1:47.266.
Steady progress for the two Suzukis, who started way out of position out the back of the field. Alex Rins has actually made good progress. He's up 7 spots now into 14th, but Joan Mir, who started in 17th, he's gone back a spot on the first lap.
Yeah, real poor weekend for Joan Mir. It's been a nightmare, a weekend to forget. He was hoping to maybe save something on a Sunday. It's not happening. What can these men at the front of this race then now do about the two top Ducatis at the front of this race? It's the GP21 that leads again in hands of Bezzecchi. The year-old Ducati at the moment is the bike to be on, isn't it, in MotoGP? It's won 7 of the last 13 Grand Prix. 4 times in the last 6 races last year in the hands of this man, Pecco Bagnaia. 3 times already for Enea Bastianini, who's put himself up into the top 10 on this lap.
So Bagnaia now gets past Fabio Di Giannantonio. You don't imagine Di Giannantonio will make life too difficult. Well, he proves me immediately wrong by going back past Bagnaia on the brakes. Can he make it to the apex? Yes, he does. But of course, Bagnaia is in many ways, lead challenger for the factory Ducati team, certainly in the World Championship. So you wouldn't expect that the junior independent riders will be making life too difficult for him. Quartararo is still swarming all over the back of the two VR46 Ducatis up front. Bezzecchi continues to lead Marini. Quartararo at the moment looking pretty racy behind them. You'll certainly want to make that move quickly, but the likes of Bagnaia and Aleix still marooned further back.
Bagnaia's got his head down here, just at the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, 1:46.940. The only man currently circulating. There's 5.2 on the circuit in the 1:46s. Quartararo, brilliant. This is another stunning ride by the reigning world champion. This is why Fabio Quartararo won last year's world title. The things he's able to do on that factory Yamaha, nobody else on planet Earth right now could match or get close to Fabio Quartararo. Ruthless up the inside of Marini, down through Casanova and Savelli. It's Fabio Quartararo versus Ducati right now at the front of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, he's got 2 bikes now between himself and Bagnaia. This will be the strategy that Yamaha will no doubt try to tell him to adopt. If he can get himself in this position, just try and get himself to the front of the field as soon as he can. Put some of these bikes, who we don't expect to stay around at the front of the field, the likes of Di Giannantonio and perhaps Bezzecchi, put them between himself and the guys who are expecting to be at the front, the likes of Bastianini and Bagnaia, and just get out front and go. Try and build up an advantage. And while he's in the slipstream of these Ducatis, he's not going to lose out quite as much speed as if he would do if he was running into that headwind down the main straight.
The top Yamaha Quattararo P2, the next best Yamaha P22, shocking by the other three Yamahas. And Pecco Bagnaia does find a way through then on Fabio Di Giannantonio, the poleman, who's just trying to slip out of contention. Is the pace that little bit too hot? Luca Marini using all the power of that GP22 to get up the inside of Fabio Quattararo on the brakes at the Santa Nata, but Quattararo stands firm and resists and fights straight back. This is proper elbows out, isn't it, from Fabio Quattararo? He's getting everything he can, every ounce of performance out of himself and that wise RM1 right now to keep Marini at bay. And of course, while they scrap it out behind Marco Bezzecchi, he's giving the young Italian at the front of this Grand Prix, who hasn't put a foot wrong so far on the 72 bike, the chance to eke out a lead. It's nearly 3/4 of a second, halfway around this lap 5.
Talk about swimming against the tide. Fabio Quattararo is doing a Herculean job here to keep his head above water against these other Ducatis. He is surrounded by them. He's the only non-Ducati in the top 5 at the moment. Aleix Espargaro is still stuck behind Di Giannantonio in 6th, so the Aprilia rider isn't making quite as rapid progress. Further back we've got Zarco in 7th. Brad Binder still holds on to 8th, and Enea Bastianini still not able to make the progress we expected, back in 9th at the moment.
Yellow flags are out in sector 3. Paul Espargaro just adding to more misery for Repsol Honda. Their dreadful season goes on. That's a big one. That's through Arrabbiata too. Now then, they've already got Marc Marquez stepping away from a major surgery, a 4th major operation on that damaged humerus bone, and now Paul Espargaro's Repsol Honda goes barrel rolling through the gravel trap. That is a fast one. Can it get any worse right now for HRC as Pecco Bagnaia really starts to hone in on Luca Marini and Ricky Henry? These two are bosom buddies, aren't they? Great pals off the circuit in the VR46 Academy. And look at this, Fabio Quattararo is going to get absolutely swamped. He's getting mullered here in terms of top speed. Bagnaia comes through on Marini and Quattararo in quick succession. Can he stop? Aleix Espargaro got in really, really hot. That is just Aleix Espargaro trying desperately, one, to get on par with Marini and Bagnaia ahead of him on the fast Ducatis, but also he's got Zarco and Di Giannantonio to contend with. He's getting absolutely destroyed here right now by fractured Ducatis. Is Aleix Espargaro. What can he do?
We now have 5 Ducatis in the top 6. Aleix Espargaro looks like he put a pretty brutal move there on Johan Zarco. So Zarco now drops back down into 7th. Bastianini's now next up in 8th. So he has now got past Brad Binder. So the beast, who he expected to have pretty decent race pace in this Grand Prix, he's going to have to come from a long way back. He is now just behind Zarco in 8th.
Might be already too little too late here for Enea Bastianini. He is the master of worn tyres, isn't he, in Motogp, so we won't discount him just yet. Jorge Martin now on your top speeds. 226 at 300. That's a new top speed record in MotoGP, ladies and gentlemen. A bit further down the field, Jorge Martin in 15th place right now has just set a new top speed record in the MotoGP World Championship. He's on the 89 bike. Nothing wrong with his speed, but at the moment fighting for a solitary point further down the field.
So just caught a glimpse of Enea Bastianini there. He's now up behind Johan Zarco. Here's Marc Marquez, who's in a KTM sandwich at the moment. Brad Binder up into 9th position after that brilliant first lap. Marc Marquez one up from his starting position of 11th up into 10th. But Miguel Oliveira is also just behind. So the KTMs are starting to come into play here on the Sunday. The Suzuki's less so. Rins is still in 13th. Joan Mir still outside the points.
Poor old Paul Espargaro, the 3rd choice Spaniard, that now extends his record to just 24 points in the last 7 races since that outstanding start to the season with the Qatar podium. Marco Bezzecchi still leads in here. It's home Grand Prix. Bastianini finds a way up the inside of Johan Zarco, but he runs it in a little bit hot, and Zarco just bounces straight back on through. Now then, Aleix Espargaro, there was not a lot of room there. And Fabio Di Giannantonio was there into that first chicane, but coming through was the Aprilia man then. Now he's back up into 4th place.
He's into 5th there behind Luca Marini. 1.2 seconds of a gap though, so that leading quartet have been able to gap Fabio Di Giannantonio slightly. There you can see the visible gap. Aleix Espargaro, we're going to now see what kind of pace he does have up his sleeve. See if he can jump across this gap while Bezzecchi is still leading this train. He knows he's going to have to get across that gap quickly, because you feel if Pecco Bagnaia is now able to get to the front of this group, he may be able to stretch this out.
Yeah, you do wonder how much Marco Bezzecchi will engage with Pecco Bagnaia. Aleix Espargaro said pre-race yesterday that was one of his big fears. He felt like if he was fighting with the Ducatis at the front, like the likes of the Gianantonio, Bezzecchi, Marini, they would think nothing of lunging up his inside, having already made an overtake. They don't think, or he didn't think that they perhaps resist so much and be as aggressive against Pecco Bagnaia, with him having such high hopes of winning Ducati's home Grand Prix here for the Bologna factory. Of course, their Borgo Panigale base just about an hour's drive away from here, and so far so good for Ducati, because they've got the top two so far, with Bezzecchi leading just on the end of lap number 7. Bagnaia there in 2nd place. How on earth is Fabio Quartararo keeping that factory Yamaha in a podium place, given the top speed deficit, riding out of his skin yet again, isn't he, the Frenchman? So lap 7 chalks off. It's Bezzecchi's advantage by just over 10 a second, but here comes Pecco Bagnaia. He's got to be careful. He doesn't want to get sucked in too hot into Bezzecchi's slipstream and running wide into the first corner. That's what Alex Rins did in Le Mans behind Bagnaia. No, he stays behind Bezzecchi. Bezzecchi still stands firm.
Boy, is Bezzecchi good on the brakes into San Donato. There was no chance there of Bagnaia being able to draw alongside the race leader. Yellow flags out then in sector 1. Aleix Espargaro is now starting to close in on this leading quartet. He pulled a few tenths back on that last lap, so the Aprilia man is starting to grow in this group. It's Mir who's gone down.
Well, that just adds to his miserable weekend, doesn't it? The former world champion has had a torrid time here in Mugello. He's gone down the first corner at San Donato, and now it's his 3rd DNF in the last 4 races. The world title hopes of Mir in 2022 are already starting to slip away. He came into this Italian Grand Prix down in 9th in the World Championship. More damage done then to Mir's title aspirations. He's down and out while trying to get himself back into point scoring place. It's been an awful weekend all round for Suzuki in general. Alex Rins at the moment is only down in 13th place. He's 5 seconds nearly off the race leader Marco Bezzecchi, so another disaster for Mir.
There's a real battle royal going on in that second group between the two Rossini Ducatis. That's Aprilia. That looks like Savadori who's pulling off. He pitted early on in this Grand Prix, and Savadori staying well out of the way. But there's a real battle going on between the teammates Di Gianantonio and Bastianini for 6th and 7th at the moment. Alex Rins is now dropping down our timing screens as well. So if we lost both Suzukis, we have Rins has crashed down too.
Well, what an absolute horrible 60 seconds or so for the factory Suzuki team. They lost both of their men, didn't they, in the last Grand Prix in Le Mans in quick succession. On the same lap, turn 1 cost Mir as Pecco Bagnaia goes for the lead. He gets some slipstream. Marini looks like he's taken 3rd place back from Quartararo. How good is Quartararo on the brakes on that factory Yamaha? He runs Marini out a little bit wide. He desperately clings on to that final place on the podium as Fabio Quartararo, but Pecco Bagnaia then has struck. He's made the key move, and now that we thought all weekend he had the pace, if he did get to the front to make a breakaway here, the Ducati fans there, the Red Army, they're loving this one as Pecco Bagnaia then for the first time here in Mugello hits the front on lap 9.
You can see as well a graphic demonstration of what Fabio Quartararo is up with. He just cannot break away from Luca Marini at the front of this race in that battle for 3rd position. Bezzecchi then in 2nd. What does he have in response? You don't imagine he's got the race pace to stick with Pecco Bagnaia, who of course has been so good recently. Ever since Jerez, he's been challenging for victory. Of course, won in that brilliant mistake-free battle with Quartararo in Jerez, and then the mistakes bit him badly in Le Mans when he was challenging for victory there. Bezzecchi sticking with him at the moment. It's important for Quartararo as well to try and stay as close to this top 2 as possible, because if he loses any kind of slipstream, he's going to be easy meat to Marini behind him.
So on the brakes with the slipstream, you can see that Ducati GP22 snaking and slipping around underneath Pecco Bagnaia with the extra slipstream. There must have been a moment there where he thought, am I going to stop? Please, please stop. He did make it stop going into San Donato, and he leads here in Mugello. Anxious faces then looking on, because Pecco Bagnaia in Italy recently has been in this position before and he's blown it. He has fluffed his lines. 7 races in Motogp on home turf. He's DNF'd in 5. He led early on here in Mugello last year when he crashed. He was leading in Misano last October when he crashed, and of course handed the World Championship to Fabio Quartararo. Quartararo was cruising to the title anyway, but he didn't have to really work hard for it, did he, on the Adriatic coast? But what can Pecco Bagnaia do? Can he right the wrongs of Le Mans, and can he right the wrongs of Mugello here last year?
But watch out for Aleix Espargaro then in this battle for the final podium position at the moment. He's now right on the back virtually on the battle between Quartararo and Luca Marini. 147.5 for Aleix Espargaro last time around. The only rider ahead of him that was quicker was Pecco Bagnaia. He was quicker than Bezzecchi and Quartararo and Marini. Jean Zarco has also got good pace. He's leading that second group now, which includes an Air Bastianini. Zarco was also in the mid-47s last time around, 47.4 for him.
So here is Bastianini. We're coming to the phase of the race, the sort of final third, where he's normally exceptionally strong, but has he given himself too much to do to get himself back in podium contention? There's Fabio Di Giannantonio, as we did fear. He was struggling to run the pace at the front of this Grand Prix. There's a further confirmation then. Marc Marquez's tweet yesterday, having to take an enforced injury layoff. He's going to have, well, he'll be back under the surgeon's knife in Minnesota in America sometime next week. He flies out to the States on Tuesday for further consultations with some world-renowned specialist in humerus bone injuries. And as we mentioned, we wish him well in what looks like it's going to be another long and arduous and painful rehabilitation. Back at the front of this Grand Prix, there is Bastianini. What can he do about Johan Zarco directly ahead of him? Bastianini right now in 7th place. All the way through, going into turn 15 as Zarco pulls up on the brakes. He's done a bit wide there. Got to be careful here. Turn 15 twice already this weekend. Has seen an Air Bastianini end himself or end up in the gravel trap there. So proceed with caution, Anaya.
You don't want to leave the door as wide open as that when you've got Brad Binder right on your tail as well. Brad Binder won't need any encouragement to have a go, even if that KTM isn't necessarily carrying the same top speed. Although there's new aero for KTM this weekend has certainly made a difference for them down that main straight, although they've had to essentially find a whole new base setting with that new aero on the bike. But Brad Binder and Miguel Oliveira doing a solid job for the KTM team at the moment. Given where they started in this Grand Prix, to have both bikes inside the top 10 would represent a good day's work for them.
Put it to Quartararo again and his crew chief Diego Gibolini, because all weekend Quartararo has not been bemoaning the obvious lack of top speed here as normal for Yamaha and Mugello. It's been a lack of turning, which is normally a real strong point of the Yamaha. He's had a lot of understeer through some of the chicanes. You don't need understeer through some of these rapid change of direction here in Mugello. They've clearly found something that's given him more front end feel, more turning performance on that Yamaha, because there he's in 3rd place. He's closing in now on Marco Bezzecchi, sweeping through Arrabbiata 1 and 2. Looks like he may be lining up a move here on the brakes. Straight away he's gone for it. What a time to ride on board with Quartararo. Down the hill into Scarperia, up into 2nd place. What a 20 points this would be for Fabio Quartararo. Of course, it would be increasing his lead in the World Championship as it stands right now with the latest Spargo, his nearest rival, in 5th spot.
He must be thinking his way around this racetrack, thinking, well, if I make a move here, I need to then pull out a bit of a gap in this fourth sector to leave myself clear of any kind of attack, because he's got 2 Ducatis now right on his tail. And the latest Spargo, who as mentioned was really closing in on the leaders, he will be close in attention as well. The rider with the real pace at the moment though, Enea Bastianini, he was in the 46s last time around at 146.9, the fastest rider on track. The beast is far from done yet.
Will he be kicking himself though for a poor qualifying yesterday in 10th place, and then not a great first lap. We dropped down to 12th. Nothing that Fabio Quartararo can do about the top speed of the Ducati in the slipstream, but he's so good on the brakes. Into San Donato, whoa, that's really tight. That reminded me of Marquez Petrucci and Dovizioso here in Mugello late on 3 years ago in that epic battle in 2019. Somehow, after that real close incident there with Bezzecchi and Marini, Quartararo still comes out of San Donato in 2nd place.
He is giving absolutely everything to this, isn't he? But it's also having a knock-on effect further ahead of him, because Pecco Bagnaini's lead is now up over 1 second. It was 9/10 of a second as they went across the line, and Quartararo, in his desperate defence to try and hold off the VR46 Ducatis, has lost another 1/4 of a second. So a crucial lap now for Quartararo through these fast parts of the lap. We've seen how good he is through the Arrabbiata section of the circuit. He needs to try and put as many bike lengths between himself and these Ducatis as possible, and of course the latest Spargo a bit, because he will once again be exposed on that 1.1 kilometre main straight. We're just past half distance.
Yeah, you can see as well, latest Spargo has been sat on the back of this battle for 2nd place for 4 or 5 laps now, but because of the top speed of the Ducatis ahead of him, he can't find a way through in the slipstream and then outbrake them going into San Donato. A bit further back than there is the poleman Fabio Di Giannantonio. He's circulating in 10th place. A battle of the Hondas there between Marc Marquez and Taka Nakagami. Not the battle of Marc Marquez is here, but that's one of the reasons why he's stepping away for this 4th major operation on that right humerus bone in America next week. He's just not enjoying racing. He said, I'm not here to fight for top 6s like he has been all season long. He thinks that there's still more world titles, a lot more race wins in his pocket if he does recover for things. That's why he's taking this surgery. Now then, a tussle side by side. The 2 Mini VR46 Ducati teammates. It's going to be Advantage Bezzecchi. He'll have the inside. That's going to be really close. Oh, that was tight. Super super tight for a moment there. Marco Bezzecchi might have thought he was going to be clipping the rear tyre of Fabio Quartararo. Great battle this then, racing behind Pecco Bagnaia. Marini up the inside and Bezzecchi in the first chicane. It's all concertinaing up here. Quartararo second, Bezzecchi still in third, then Marini, Aleix Spargo, Zarco and Bastianini. Bastianini now is up into 6th place.
Well, Marini certainly would have enjoyed all the praise and plaudits that have been flying the way of his teammate Marco Bezzecchi so far this season. So this is for much more than just a podium position. This is quite a stake. Bastianini way out wide there. That's going to leave him exposed with Johan Zarco right behind him. Bastianini's charge certainly did not need that. We're into the third sector of the lap now, where Fabio Quartararo is absolutely exceptional. On the last lap, he pulled 3/10 back on Pecco Bagnaia in the third sector alone, and was able, crucially, it was in this part of the lap where he was able to build up that margin to ensure that he was clear of any overtake down the main straight. Once again, let's see if Quartararo can pull some time back on Bagnaia in the lead, just hovering around that 1 second mark.
Bastianini, with that mistake going through Casanova and Sabelli, was maybe a little bit fortunate that Zarco didn't swing back in to that 6th place. So what can Bastianini do then now, as he'll pick up some slipstream behind Aleix Spargo's upgraded engine on that RSGP Aprilia. Quartararo then now has he finally put enough daylight between himself and Marco Bezzecchi to avoid the risky moves from the Italians behind him going into the first corner. See Bezzecchi with that slightly wide line through Puccini. So Pecco Bagnaia then it is that uses all of the curb onto the pit lane entrance there on the factory Ducati that will lead at the end of lap 13. His advantage 1.1 seconds over Fabio Quartararo. Now then, has Quartararo then done enough on this lap to make sure that he's not under attack into San Donato from the two Ducatis behind him? I think he has. There's no way through from Bastianini. There's nothing wrong with the top speed of that factory Aprilia, is there? At all. Aleix Spargo keeping Bastianini at bay right now.
Well, there is the fastest bike officially in Motogp history. Jorge Martin, 363.6 kilometres an hour. That's not his main focus at the moment. He's in a battle at the moment for 13th position. He's there with Maverick Vinales, who of course has come from the very back of the grid. We've got yellow flags out in sector 2. Just ahead of them, it's Bastianini. Well, it's one of the
beast. It's Bastianini. Can you believe it? It's another big blunder then from Bastianini. He had the DNF in Portimao, didn't he? And he's thrown away another big World Championship points here. A crash at turn 4 for Enea Bastianini. He made a mistake 2 or 3 laps ago at turn 15. A mistake going into Casanova and Sabelli on the previous lap. And the beast blows it again, losing the front going into turn number 4. Badly damaged. That's the 3rd crash of the weekend for Enea Bastianini. 3 times he hit the deck in Le Mans. He was able to win the race in France 2 weeks ago. No such luck this time around. And another blow for his championship aspirations. Bastianini down. Big blow for Grazzini on their home turf.
And that's the effect it has on the World Championship. He will drop 28 points behind. Fabio Quartararo is currently sitting in 2nd place. Aleix Spargo, as you can see on screen, he'd be 11 points off the lead. He's now got past Luca Marini. He's faded a bit on this lap. He's nowhere near the back of his teammate Marco Bezzecchi on this lap. Quartararo then continues to lead this train. He's not able to fully gap this battle, is he, at the moment? But he's just about far enough up ahead. And to his credit, he is clawing time back as well on Pecco Bagnaia as they come across the line now to complete lap 14. Quartararo matching Bagnaia. It's essentially in that 4th sector where Quartararo is losing all of his time. He's able to close everywhere else, and then loses it all again in sector 4.
That mistake by Bastianini continues a shocking trend for him. Let's just pick up here what's happening on the replay. This was Aleix Spargo having a move up the inside of Luca Marini going into Correntaio. That was a block pass, wasn't it? Squeezing Marini out wide. He knew he had to make that move pretty quickly. And Aleix Spargo is going to make it 4 consecutive podiums. That trend, that shocking trend continues then for Bastianini. He won the race in Qatar, 11th in Mandalika, won in Texas, then DNF at the following Grand Prix in Portimao, and now he's won in Le Mans and DNF at the next Grand Prix here in Mugello. He's got the speed, he's got the race-winning form this year, hasn't Enea Bastianini, but he needs to add some consistency if he's to emerge as a genuine series title contender to succeed Fabio Quartararo as the Motogp World Champion. Quartararo at the moment is doing an outstanding job here in Mugello. The Italian Grand Prix, which he won here last year, he has looked like he's broken the resolve of Bezzecchi in 3rd place. Aleix Spargo finally driven on Luca Marini. Pecco Bagnaia still holding that advantage at the front at 1.2 seconds. He's found about a 10th on this current lap as he tries to send the Ducati fans into delirium.
You'll see what happens through this third sector where Fabio Quartararo has generally been strong. Quartararo pulls back 0.3 of a second again in the third sector of the lap, so the lead once again dips back under 1 second, but expect Quartararo to lose a lot of that advantage that he's just clawed back in this fourth sector once again. We're looking at Aleix Espargaro, then you can see potentially yet another podium just ahead of him. Marco Bezzecchi, though, who's never been on a MotoGP podium, of course, this is just his 8th Premier Class start. He's not going to give this up easily. Quartararo then on that last lap, a 10th faster than Bagnaia, 47.5 for Fabio Quartararo. The fastest lap man of the leading group was Aleix Espargaro as Luca Marini tries to defend from Johan Zarco. This is the battle for 5th.
Yeah, this is potentially going to be Luca Marini's best ever dry race result in the Motogp World Championship. A much needed confidence boost for him after a pretty underwhelming switch over to the latest spec factory, the Ducati GP22. Luca Bagnaia, normally we say in these kind of scenarios and situations, he's known as Mr. Unflappable, isn't he? But we saw that shield kind of broken somewhat last time out in Le Mans when he did crack under the pressure from Enea Bastianini, but at the moment he's looking really strong here for a famous home victory in Mugello. Let's quickly pop down to Simon Crayford with some observations.
Just wanted to, I always watch the rookies, and Darren Binder is doing consistent 48 threes, chasing Morbidelli and ahead of a bunch of guys. The sort of times he's doing is equal to Vinales, that around there, Marquez, and pretty impressive.
Yeah, Darren Binder is doing an outstanding job there. He's
Actually given a long lap penalty at the start of the race too.
Long lap penalty as well. He's right on the case of Frankie Morbidelli, who's having another humbling experience at the moment on the second of the Monza Energy Yamaha factory M1s. Another humiliation here for Morbidelli on home soil. He's 17th at the moment, nowhere near again the pace of his teammate Quartararo, who's there in second place. Marco Bezzecchi still there in third. The scary Mugello helmet, well, there's been nothing scary about his home Grand Prix so far. It's been a no-fear ride for Bezzecchi. This will be a memorable result if he can complete the job here today from the front row for the first time in MotoGP. Aleix Espargaro just can't get close enough to attack him on the brakes down into San Donato. Zarco finally finds a way through, then back on Luca Marini. That's the battle for 5th place. Marini back in 6th now.
Brad Binder is just in the back of the picture. You can just see the KTM rider. He's doing a superb job, the South African. He is way and far away of any other KTM. He's only 4.5 seconds off the lead, is the South African. He's 4 seconds clear of the battle involving his teammate Miguel Oliveira, so a sensational job from Brad Binder. He started 16th off the grid, of course, made up most of those positions on lap 1. You can just see him in the back of the picture there, chasing the battle between Zarco and Marini. Brilliant job from the South African.
There's a few one-man bands in MotoGP right now, aren't there? Fabio Quartararo, clearly the only rider capable of running at the front on the factory Yamaha. Brad Binder, by far the outstanding KTM man. He's the lead rider in the Austrian factory, no question about that. Miguel Oliveira may even be squeezed out of the factory team in 2023. As Aleix Espargaro then goes straight up the inside of Marco Bezzecchi down into Scarperia. Aleix Espargaro then, surely not, he's going to make it 4 consecutive third place finishes here in MotoGP. He won't care because this will keep him firmly in title contention. It will be another podium, the first podium in the Premier Class here potentially for Aprilia in Mugello, their home Grand Prix in 22 years. Jamie McWilliams on the old 500 two-stroke did it here back in 2000. There's been some barren days since then for the factory and Aprilia team. 2022 though is a completely different story. What's going through the mind though of that man as well? A load more World Championship points thrown into the gravel trap by Enea Bastianini.
Yeah, he's losing vital ground in the chase for the title, so Aleix Espargaro, if you can hold them off here, he should have third place under control. He can get into his rhythm and stay clear. Marco Bezzecchi is not close enough, as good as he is on the brakes. He's not close enough to make a real move on Aleix Espargaro, whose last lap around was 48.0. Of course, he was busy overtaking Marco Bezzecchi. He's now got around a second and a half up ahead to Fabio Quartararo. Can he make that up in the last 6 laps? It's going to take a real Herculean challenge from Aleix Espargaro to close that down, because Quartararo is setting good lap times himself. He is not letting Bagnaia away with this easily. Just a second the margin, and they're matching each other for pace in the mid 147s. Bagnaia doesn't have this under control yet.
Are we seeing another Jerez here? You remember when Aleix Espargaro was sat behind Jack Miller and Marc Marquez for such a long time in that Spanish Grand Prix? Couldn't really make an overtake, wary of the front tyre temperature and pressure on that Aprilia. Once he was able to get through on Miller and Marquez, he just streaked away from them. Nothing that Miller and Marquez had in response. It looks like it might be history repeating itself here as well, because once he's got through on Marini, now Bezzecchi, with a bit of clear track in front of him, Aleix Espargaro trying to use his speed superiority here now and cement that third place in Mugello.
This is the closest Quartararo's been for quite a while, actually. He's never usually faster than Bagnaia in the second sector. He's pulled a 10 back, so it's under a second. This is the part of the lap where Fabio Quartararo is always so strong. The third sector clicks up now, and again, he pulls back 0.2 of a second, so 0.7 of the lead. Quartararo can sniff a potentially unlikely victory as he chases down Pecco Bagnaia. But as you mentioned, Jerez was a race where they did not make a single mistake between them, but Quartararo has the bit between his teeth. 5 laps to go as they cross the line now, and he can see the 63 up ahead of him.
Yeah, Bagnaia's advantage over the line is just 0.9 of a second. He gains 0.2 on Quartararo on the start-finish straight alone. Aleix Espargaro looks like he may well have broken Marco Bezzecchi's resolve. The stubborn resolve of the Italian. He's now nearly half a second clear of the former Moto3 and Moto2 winner. Still will be representing a great weekend's work for Bezzecchi, worried to take a career best 4th place from a career first front row start in the Premier Class. Here is though the man that's making all the running here in Mugello. The top speed of his Ducati, 356 kilometres an hour. That's slightly less than Jorge Martin, of course, who would have picked up some big slipstream when he was mid-pack to set that mind-boggling top speed record in MotoGP. Now then, Fabio Quartararo's got that hard front tyre on here. Will that be crucial and decisive for him in these latter stages of this Italian Grand Prix? Although Bagnaia has responded here on this lap. He's been really good in the first 2 sectors on this lap number 19, because he's eked out 0.3 already on Quartararo in the first 2 splits on this lap.
Yeah, so if you combine sector 4, which involves the majority of the main straight, and then sector 1, which involves the rest of it, Quartararo combined just lost 0.4 of a second to Pecco Bagnaia in those parts of the racetrack. That just gives you an idea of what Quartararo is up against. But Bagnaia is doing a very solid job out here in front. He's not making any mistakes at the moment. Of course, it was a mistake that cost him so dear last time out in Le Mans when the pressure came on from Enea Bastianini. Bagnaia ultimately crumbled. That's what Quartararo will be looking to do at this stage. Just ask the question of Pecco Bagnaia. Keep that pressure on in the closing stages of the race. But second place at the moment will represent a good day's work for Fabio Quartararo in the grand scheme of things in the World Championship, with his 2 closest rivals, Aleix Espargaro and Enea Bastianini, one behind him and one sat in the pits at the moment.
Carola Bagnaia there, the sister of Pecco Bagnaia, who does all of his media work and PR work behind the scenes here in MotoGP. She can barely watch the screen. She's got no fingernails left, that's for sure. She watches her sibling here potentially on course for a famous home victory. We said an Italian rider on an Italian bike in an Italian team and the Italian Grand Prix to win. It doesn't get any better than that. And Pecco Bagnaia is just, 3.5 laps away from a memorable victory here in front of his home crowd. Fabio Quartararo, though, keeping him honest, as you knew he would do. Quartararo, though, is just losing touch here as again the crucial time that the Ducati can gain him down that start-finish straight sees Quartararo slipped nearly 1.5 seconds behind Bagnaia, sector 1 on lap 20.
Awful lot of credit deserves to go the way of Marco Bezzecchi here, still on target at the moment for 4th place. We've got just 3.5 laps to go of this Grand Prix. He's got Johan Zarco, the experienced Frenchman, right on his tail, still lapping in the 147s is Marco Bezzecchi. That is not too shabby at all. Marini just behind them in 6th, and they've got company coming soon in the shape of Brad Binder, who did a 147.8 last time around. That was faster than the trio of blanks up ahead of him. Aleix Espargaro looks like he's going to have enough to pull clear of this battle, but Brad Binder on the KTM, who always saves his best for Sunday, could be zeroing in on a top 6 finish.
Again, through the sort of twistier sections, the high-speed change of direction around this Mugello circuit. Quartararo is the better man slightly on that factory Yamaha. In fact, he's recovered half a second in sectors 2 and 3 alone compared to Pecco Bagnaia. Soul destroying though as he comes to this point where the Ducati just starts to eat up the miles down this long start-finish straight. You can see Pecco Bagnaia there using the Ducati rear ride-high device, the flicking of the switch there on the left handlebar. Over the line then the advantage was just a fraction over a second. 3 laps to go here in Mugello then. just over 15 kilometres between Pecco Bagnaia and a dream victory here in Mugello. He would have dreamt of this moment when he was a kid, being in this position to win the Italian Grand Prix for the factory Ducati team. Well, it's in his hands now, isn't it?
Fabio Di Gianantonio, the pole man, has just dropped out of the top 10 for the first time in this Grand Prix, but he is still on target for his career best finish in the Motogp class. He got his first points last time around when he finished 13th in Le Mans. He's down to 11. He's just been passed by Marc Marquez, the fastest rider that I can see on track at the moment, though. It's just behind Di Gianantonio. How frustrating for Aprilia. Maverick Vinales just did a 1:47.5. He's running at 12th at the moment, the fastest rider on circuit.
That time by Vinales is nearly half a second quicker than the race leader Pecco Bagnaia. So Maverick Vinales can qualify. We've seen it throughout this season so far. In terms of race pace, Maverick Vinales has got top 6, top 10 pace on that factory in Aprilia. He's got to find something though on a soft tyre in qualifying, because just gives himself far too much to do on a Sunday afternoon. As this man remains on course for victory here in Italy. Anxious faces, pensive faces down in the factory Ducati camp. They've been in this position before, of course, with Danilo Petrucci and Andrea Dovizioso and Jorge Lorenzo have Ducati. And now they'll want to add Pecco Bagnaia's name to their winning list here in their home Grand Prix in Mugello. There'll be a big party in Borgo Panigale tonight. That will go on to the early hours tomorrow morning. They'll have to move on quickly to Barcelona next weekend, but there'll be a lot of Prosecco flowing at the Ducati HQ, about an hour's drive away from this Mugello circuit. Over the line then to start the penultimate lap of this Italian Grand Prix, and it's Italian Pecco Bagnaia leads by 1.2 seconds from Quartararo in second.
Tell you what, Marco Bezzecchi's not giving up on third place just yet. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen, the gap is back down to a tenth of a second. Marco Bezzecchi just did a 1:47.5 on the last lap. Maverick Vinales again does a 47.5 in the Aprilia as he's chasing down Gian Antonio. Bezzecchi is quicker than the 3 riders ahead of him at this stage of the race, just 3.2 seconds off the lead. Maybe Marco Bezzecchi isn't out of the podium picture yet.
Well, we know he's cut thousands and thousands of laps around this Mugello circuit, being part of the VR46 Academy, but this is his first time, we remind you, around this really tough, physically demanding technical circuit. But Marco Bezzecchi's appeared here on a Motogp bike, and what a job he is doing. He started on the front row, and Lace Espargaro looks like he's really swung on that factory in Aprilia in the first 2 seconds. He's been able to gap, hasn't he? Bezzecchi directly behind him. Johan Zarco not giving up 4th place as well. Now then through Pelagio for the final time. It's going to be the penultimate time. Bagnaia, what's his advantage? Still 1.2 seconds. I just wonder now whether Fabio Quartararo is thinking this is a really valuable 20 points here. I've tried everything to make Pecco Bagnaia crack. It hasn't happened this time around so far. Bagnaia has resisted the pressure, and Quartararo knows these 20 points in Mugello against 9 Ducatis he was facing coming in to this Italian Grand Prix weekend. They're going to be like gold for Quartararo. Brilliant job by him, and it would increase his lead in the World Championship with Aleix Espargaro on course for yet another 3rd place.
Yeah, and Aleix Espargaro has responded on this lap. He's pulled out half a second already over the course of this lap on Marco Bezzecchi, riding on board on the left-hand side of your screen with Johan Zarco. You can see him closing in on Marco Bezzecchi. We could have a change soon for 4th place. Bezzecchi very, very good on the brakes though, and holds on to 4th place. We're on the final lap though with Pecco Bagnaia and Quartararo with a valiant challenge. He's just over a second behind him, but ultimately the Ducati power and the brilliance of Bagnaia looks like he's going to prove too much at the moment. We're on the final lap.
Well, this man's mentor Valentino Rossi used to be the master of Mugello, but it looks like we have a new Mugello maestro coming up very, very shortly in the hands of Pecco Bagnaia. Aleix Espargaro looks like crucially he will take that 4th consecutive 3rd place. He's been brilliant over the last couple of laps. Johan Zarco has finally as well taken Marco Bezzecchi, so we're going to have 2 Frenchmen potentially in the top 4 here. Still a top ride by Bezzecchi was to take 5th place here. Pecco Bagnaia then here in Arrabbiata 2, where he crashed out of the lead right here on the 2nd lap 12 months ago. It's been no problemo so far on home soil. His home fans at the Catisti, they're going to be going ballistic very, very shortly for Bagnaia. Now into the third sector he comes with a second advantage over world champion Fabio Quartararo.
Yeah, he looks pretty safe from here. He's closest that he's been for a while, Quartararo, but there are no real overtaking spots for him at this stage of the lap. Aleix Espargaro then clear of Joan Zarco in fourth. There might be a late change for sixth position though in these final few corners because Brad Binder is all over the back of Luca Marini. You can see them in the background. One corner to go though.
Pecco Bagnaia then into turn number 15. It looks like we're going to have an Italian rider on an Italian machine in the Italian Grand Prix and an Italian team win here. Pecco Bagnaia has been brilliant here in Mugello. He is the master of Mugello in 2022. He takes a famous home victory. Pecco Bagnaia by just 0.6 of a second from the brilliant reigning world champion Fabio Quartararo. Aleix Espargaro is third for the fourth consecutive Grand Prix. His fifth podium of the season on the factory in front. Zarco does just hold off Marco Bezzecchi for fourth place. Marini sixth, Binder seventh, Nakagami eighth, Oliveira ninth, with Marc Marquez rounding out the top 10. Davide Tardozzi, as he so often